And hello there. So let's discuss about the topic of impeachment. Well, considering this is a special lecture in political, let's concentrate on this particular topic in our constitution on impeachment. Okay. All right. So how we're going to start the discussion? Of course, we have to go to the particular constitutional provisions on impeachment. Okay. Okay. So the first question is, of course, who may be impeached. Okay. So you have to look at Article 11, Section 2 of your Constitution. So, in the that in that particular section, the following officials may be impeached. Okay, so of course, impeachable officials would include, of course, the President of the Philippines, the Vice President of the Philippines, members of the Supreme Court, members of the Constitutional Commissions, and Ombudsman. Okay. All right. So this list is, if you would observe, this list is an exclusive list of impeachable officers. Okay. Now the next question is, what are the grounds for impeachment? So when we speak of impeachment, of course, the effect is you're going to punish, or particularly you're going to remove the officer. Okay. So the grounds for impeachment, if you're going to look at your Article 11, Section 2 of your Constitution, would be as follows. So, the first one would be culpable violation of the Constitution. Number two is treason. Number three is bribery. Number four is graft and corruption. Uh, Number five is other high crimes. Or, as it may be said in number six, it would be betrayal of public trust. Now, all other public officers and employees may be removed from office as provided by law, but not by impeachment. So you have to relate that in this initial list of who may be impeached. So as a consequence, all other public officers and employees may be removed from office, but not by impeachment. So in a sense, those here that you see as listed as impeachable officers, they can only be considered as to be removed by the mode of impeachment. However, we would discuss later on the latest legal implications or later decisions of the Supreme Court in relation to this concept of what would be the mode of removal. Okay, all right. So now the next issue on impeachment is of course the procedure in impeachment. Okay, so how would the procedure would be made? Okay, so of course, so we have Article 6, Section 3. Okay, of the Constitution. Okay, so what is the procedure under Article 3, Section 3 of the Constitution? Okay, so it's enumerated there. There are eight particular sections in the said provision. Okay, so number one, of course, so the House of Representatives shall have the exclusive power to initiate all cases of impeachment. Okay, so uh, saan ka magrereklamo ng impeachment? You have to file it before the House of Representatives. As you may have seen recently in the impeachment of the Vice President, which is now ongoing, the impeachment trial is now ongoing. Prior to her impeachment, of course, the complainants filed their respective impeachment complaints before the House of Representatives. Particularly, it's the office that received that as part of the process of receiving the said impeachment complaint. Now, so what's the no? So of course, pursuant to that exclusive power to initiate all cases of impeachment, a verified complaint for impeachment may be filed by any member of the House of Representatives or by any citizen upon a resolution or of endorsement by any member thereof, which shall be included in the order of business within 10 session days and referred to the proper committee within 3 session days thereafter. The committee, after hearing and by a majority vote of both of all its members, shall submit its report to the House within 60 session days from such referral, together with the corresponding resolution. The resolution shall be calendared for consideration by the House within 10 session days from receipt thereof. So that's the particular process they're going to receive. Now, after they received it and they discuss it with the Committee on Justice, then later on if the Committee of Justice would find favorable recommendation to elevate that impeachment complaint is going to be elevated in the plenary, it's going to be voted by the members of the House of Representatives. Now, once that it would be calendared for consideration by the House, in order for the impeachable officer to be called as already impeached, is we have number 3 of Article 11 Section 3. So you need a vote of at least one third of all the members of the House, and that shall be necessary either to affirm a favorable resolution with the articles of impeachment of the committee or override its contrary resolution. The vote of each member shall be recorded. Now, of course, in case the verified complaint or resolution of impeachment is filed by at least one third of all the members of the House, the same shall constitute the articles of impeachment, and trial by the Senate shall forthwith proceed. Okay? All right. So later we're going to discuss this in when we're going to discuss the case of Duterte versus House of Representatives. We'll be able to discuss this particular provision. Okay. But for all legal intents and purposes, let us be clear. Okay. Uh, of course, the question would be this: after the House of Representatives voted at least one third of the members. So what's now the status of the proceeding? In that case, the voting of the one third of the members of the House of Representatives, that constitutes now the definition that that impeachable officer is already been impeached. Okay, so let's be clear about that. So right now, for all intents and purposes, the vice president has already been impeached. Okay, that's the technical implication of that. Now, you might be confused. You might be confused with the impeachment trial. It's the impeachment trial that proceeds after the impeachment of such impeachable officer. So let's be clear about that. Of course, the impeachment trial has the purpose of whether or not to try whether or not the impeachable officer being charged with the particular offense, as we just mentioned in the list of possible grounds for impeachment. You have to you have to determine, of course, after such impeachment trial, the Senate will now, of course, acting as a impeachment court, will now decide whether or not the impeachable officer is guilty or not guilty. Okay. All right. So let's proceed. Let's go. Let's proceed with, of course, what's the next step. Okay. So of course, number 5 is, of course, this is the 1 year barred rule. So later on, we're going to discuss this because of especially the recent implications in Duterte versus House of Representatives. Okay. But as the Constitution stands, no impeachment proceeding shall be initiated against the same official for more than once within a period of 1 year. Okay, then the Senate has the sole power to try and decide all cases of impeachment. When sitting for that purpose, the senator shall be on oath or affirmation. When the President of the Philippines is on trial, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court shall preside but shall not vote. No person shall be convicted without the concurrence of two-thirds of all the members of the Senate. Okay. Now, judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than removal from office and disqualification to hold any office under the Republic of the Philippines, but the party convicted shall nevertheless be liable and subject to prosecution, trial, and punishment according to law. Then, of course, the Congress shall promulgate its rules on impeachment to effectively carry out the purpose of this section. Okay, so let's kind of backtrack. Okay, so of course, the Senate has the power to try and decide all cases of impeachment. So except if the one being held, or if the impeachable officer is that of the president. Okay, the presiding officer will be the Chief Justice. If some of you will be able to if some of you would be able to remember the Erap Estrada impeachment trial, it is Chief Justice Davide who, it's Chief Justice Davide who presided that particular impeachment trial. Okay, of course, other officers, it's the Senate President who would ano, who would be the default presiding officer, although in the present impeachment proceedings with the Vice President. Okay, it would appear that the Senate appointed a presiding officer aside from the Senate President in this particular ongoing proceedings for impeachment of the Vice President. Okay, of course, there's a petition questioning that before the Supreme Court, but of course we would just assume that it might be included right now. Of course, the Senate would always have that prerogative. They can always invoke this concept of separation of powers. Why they would allow such a presiding officer to be made or appointed instead of the Senate President. But let us see. Oh, right now the proceedings are continuing as scheduled. So of course we don't know what will happen to the petition or questioning or whether or not it should be the Senate President. But of course let's wait, or of course, well, since there's no TRO, of course, what the Senate done in appointing a Senate officer, this it's not there's no, in the absence of any TRO, the same shall not be hindered. So hanggang ngayon, as you would see, si Senator Escudero yung presiding officer instead of the Senate President, si Senate President Gatchalian. Okay, all right, then. Okay, judgment in, of course, two-thirds of the members of all the members of the Senate. So of course this is another particular issue being anticipated. Okay, uh, we don't know what will happen in then at the end of the day. It would still be the Senate who would decide on how would they compute the said two-thirds of all the members of the Senate. So it's right now it's a bit of a wait and see. Okay, ngayon mainit ang trial ngayon eh. So hindi pa hindi pa tayo napupunta do sa point that it's going to be an actual controversy. Right now the impeachment trial as well as the moving parties in the case are actively doing the proceedings, okay, to, of course, the prosecution was presenting his evidence. Okay. Okay, then of course judgment in cases of impeachment shall not extend further than removal. Of course, after the impeachable officer is removed, of course, it's without prejudice to any future cases, be it civil, criminal, or administrative in nature. Okay, so that's going to happen after the removal. Okay, all right. Now let us now review the present scope of cases. Okay, cases involving impeachment. Okay, so let's first start our discussion with Francisco versus House of Representatives. So, you may know, of course, Francisco versus House of Representatives has many discussions on certain constitutional aspects, but for purposes of the impeachment, let us concentrate our discussion on the 1 year bar rule. So this is the case involving the this is what we can say this is the case of first impression with respect to how did the Supreme Court interpreted the 1 year bar rule. Okay, so what happened here? So this happened in 2003. So an impeachment complaint was filed against Chief Justice Hilario Davide by former President Joseph Estrada. It was his partisans. Of course, the claim was, of course, at this point, ERAP is still bitter with what happened during the with the impeachment proceedings. That, well, actually, as we all know naman, Estrada versus Arroyo, he was effectively, quote unquote, removed by, quote unquote, resignation, if you can recall that case. Okay, so well, President Estrada filed an impeachment case against Davide. Eventually that impeachment case was dismissed by the House Committee on Justice, okay, on October 22, 2003. So it was filed on June 2, 2003. Then it was dismissed by the House Committee on Justice on October 22. Now, a day later, another impeachment complaint was filed against Chief Justice Davide, which is now backed by several members of the House of Representatives. Okay, What's the case in this second complaint? If you can recall, this is now different from the Erap Estrada case. This case involves the supposed questioning of the use of, the judiciary funds for buying, buying certain, certain items for the judiciary. Okay? So question yung pagbebenta niya, pagbili niya, of course question siya being the Chief Justice, question yung paggamit niya nung mga special funds, 'di ba? Kasi if you can recall, 'di ba, even now naman the Supreme Court has, several special funds. May Judiciary Development Fund 'yan, may SJA 'yan, may Sheriff's Fund 'yan. So of course this is this aligns of course with the concept of fiscal autonomy. If you can recall your provisions on the constitution on the judiciary. But of course in this particular instance, they thought of questioning how did Chief Justice Davide spent or allowed the expenditure of particular items using the judiciary funds. Okay, so that was the second impeachment complaint. Okay, and it would appear that, well, the impeachment complaint was endorsed. It has the endorsement of at least one third of the House members. So what happened was, of course, a proper appropriate case was filed by Francisco questioning this move, because they concentrated on the discussion on what's the reckoning point of the 1 year bar. Okay, so what's the ruling of the Supreme Court? Of course, there, as I said, there are a lot of constitutional implications in the case. If you can recall, there is this issue on locus standi. There's also an issue on how you're going to interpret the Constitution. Of course, that's the crux. That's the starting point. Of course, after which they discuss now what is, of course, using the aids in construction. They now proceeded to define what's the meaning of initiation, because of course this started with the discussion that, of course, Article 11 Section 3 Paragraph 5 of the 1987 Constitution states that no impeachment proceeding shall be initiated against the same official more than once within a 1 year period. Now, after the discussion on the statutory construction limitations, but if you can recall, verbal legis, the plain meaning, the intent of the framers, and you read the Constitution as a whole. Okay, if you can recall, that's the particular principles that they were guided. So they then proceeded to rule that, of course, they determined that an impeachment proceeding is deemed initiated the moment a verified complaint is filed and docketed, and not when the House Committee on Justice rules on its sufficiency. Thus, in considering what constitutes the 1 year bar, this particular provision of the Constitution on the 1 year bar states that no impeachment proceeding shall be initiated against the same official more than once within a period of 1 year. Because a prior complaint was filed earlier in 2003, a second complaint filed months later violated this ban. So kung nakikita niyo, di ba, doon sa facts, nagsimula yung impeachment, nag-file ng June, okay? Nag-file ng June. Nag-file siya ng June, okay. Alright, nag-file siya ng June, di ba? Na-dismiss siya ng October 22. So yung initiation niya, you cannot count, you need to count it from June 2. If you're going to file if you will going to file before the 1 year bar, okay? So hindi siya pwede makapag-file ng impeachment complaint up until June 2, 2004, okay? So may 1 year bar ka, okay? So dun mo reckoning point. Of course, may particularly use the plain meaning of the Constitution to surmise that, of course, it should be initiated the moment a verified complaint is filed and docketed. Okay? All right. So we now then go to Gutierrez versus House Committee on Justice. So what is this case? So this case involves Ombudsman Merceditas Gutierrez. So this was the time that Gutierrez was what became subject of an impeachment complaint allegedly because of certain things that she decided. I think particularly with, if I can recall it correctly, this is with respect to the supposed plea bargaining agreement entered by the ombudsman with the then General Carlos Garcia, who is a comptroller, who eventually was found, of course, that, supposedly was there were funds that were missing in the AFP. Okay, if you can recall that story. Now, while in the Sandigan Bayan, a plea bargaining was entered. Okay, with the special prosecutor and of course the accused, okay, in this case. So they plea bargained the supposed provisions that instead of General Garcia going to be convicted for supposed plunder, he pleaded to a lesser offense. Now, for some reason, they deter some lobbied for the impeachment of Ombudsman Gutierrez because of this particular set of circumstances. Okay, now, as always with an impeachment complaint, okay, it's a matter of how are these cases are being filed. Okay, just a remote reminder: after the rule on the 1 year bar, there were attempts of trying to file impeachment cases against then President Gloria Macapagal Arroyo. But for some reason, there would be some petitioners, supposed petitioners, who would file earlier so that the 1 year prescriptive period would be already told. Okay, so there would be no more there would be a 1 year bar already. Okay, so practically, if you would read the facts here in Gutierrez, it would appear that that would have been the intent. So what happened here? So, while the House of Representatives received two impeachment complaints against the ombudsman, uh, one filed 4 days before the opening of Congress. So, naman ang opening ng Congress, it's the fourth Monday, di ba? So, nung time na final yung unang complaint, sarado pa, wala pang session ng Kongreso. Okay? Naka-recess siya. Okay? And the second one filed almost 2 weeks later, and Congress is now open for session. So, final siya after. Okay? Kasi, di ba, just a little bit of a recap, okay? Once Congress starts, 'di ba, yung session, syempre doon pala mag-organize ng mga committees. Yung order of business nila might come a little bit later after the fourth. Hindi naman immediately yan na pagkatapos ng SONA, organize na agad sila. Syempre, kailangan muna mag-organize. Then, they have to organize them. They really have to organize themselves because after that, marami na silang agenda on the table. So, we have yung line of work nila, and of course since it's after the SONA, usually budget call na kasi yan, so laging busy yan agad. So by August, dun lang nagkakaroon ng session ang mga committees. Okay, dun lang halos nagkakaroon ng session. Okay, so what happened was, so may unang na-file before 4 days before the opening, tapos may na-file after. Okay, so ang ginawa ng Committee on Justice, dininig nila yung parehong kaso. Okay? Ginawa nila, they kind of, you call this, consolidated those two cases. Okay? They consolidated those two cases and they ruled those two cases as simultaneously. Okay? So, eventually, the House of Representatives found both complaints sufficient in form, in which complaints in considered to have been referred to it as exactly the same time. Okay? So, 'di ba? So kung mapapansin niyo, iba na siya dun sa concept nung 1 year bar kanina doon sa discuss natin ng Francisco. Medyo nagkaroon ng kind of a tweak kasi linamp in na yung pagdinig pagbukas na session 'di ba? So now, because of this this dilemma or this predicament, so petitioner ombudsman, of course, in an attempt to quote unquote reinterpret Francisco, recon the start of the 1 year ban from the filing of the first impeachment complaint or 4 days before the opening of the session. She posits that within 1 year from July 22, 2010, no second impeachment complaint may be accepted and referred to against her. Okay. Further, she further posited that the date of referral was considered irrelevant in Francisco and submitted that the referral could not be the reckoning point of initiation. Now, of course, what's the ruling of the Supreme Court in this case? So, jurisprudence here, the Supreme Court held that jurisprudence as laid down in Francisco states that the term initiate means to file the complaint and take initial action on it. The initiation starts with the filing of the complaint, which must be accompanied with an action to set the complaint moving. It refers to the filing of the impeachment complaint coupled with in Congress's taking initial action of the said complaint. The initial action taken by the House on the complaint is the referral of the complaint to the Committee on Justice. Okay, so petitioner ombudsman submits that the referral could not be the reckoning point of initiation because quote unquote something prior to that had already been done. So apparently, petitioner Gutierrez is citing the discussion of Bernas in Francisco versus House of Representatives. However, the court did not countenance, they did not tolerate that attempt of obscurantism. What the cited discussion was rejecting was the view that the House action on the committee report initiates the impeachment proceedings. It did not state that to determine the initiating step of absolutely nothing prior to it must be done. So, following petitioner's line of reasoning, the verification of the complaint or endorsement by the member of the House the steps done prior to the filing would already initiate the impeachment proceeding. So, contrary to petitioner's emphasis on the impeachment complaint, what the Constitution mentions is impeachment proceedings. A reliance on the singular tense of the word complaint to denote the limit prescribed by the Constitution goes against the basic rule of statutory construction that a word covers its enlarged and plural sense. Okay? So ano nangyari dito? Essentially, pinayagan yung both houses. There's no irregularity with the filing of the two impeachment complaints. Okay? All right. So then we now go to, of course, Republic versus Sereno. Of course, if you can recall Republic versus Sereno, this involves the co-warranto of Maria Lourdes Sereno, who was then, of course, the Chief Justice at the time. Okay, so the first, if we can recall what happened to to Chief Justice Sereno before, what happened was there was an attempt for her to get impeached. However, the House committee, I think, went on a drag in filing such impeachment complaint. Okay, then let us say in a supposed eureka moment, apparently the office of the Solicitor General thought of and suggested, why are we going to pursue with the impeachment complaint? We can file there's a possibility that co-warranto may be applied against the Chief Justice. Okay? Now, after that, of course, a co-warranto case was filed against Chief Justice Sereno. Okay? Now, one of the arguments of Chief Justice Sereno, if you can recall in that case, was that you cannot file a case against her for co-warranto because there's a line of jurisprudence. Okay, of course, these were jurisprudence that involves other cases, but the Supreme Court had that opportunity to mention that impeachable officers essentially should be removed by impeachment through impeachment. They cannot be removed through another means of removal. Okay, so that was the defense, or that one of the defenses, or one of the points raised by Chief Justice Sereno, why she should not be removed by way of co-warranto. However, the Supreme Court in Republic versus Sereno, okay, it would appear that they ruled that, well, impeachment and co-warranto can coexist. Okay, supposedly. So how did they rule on this particular matter? So, Section 2, Article 11 of the Constitution allows the institution of co-warranto action against an impeachable officer. After all, a co-warranto petition is predicated on grounds distinct from those of impeachment. The former questions the validity of a public officer's appointment, while the latter indicts him on the so-called impeachable offenses. Okay? Is made absolute. That is, okay, only those enumerated offenses are treated as grounds for impeachment is not equivalent to saying that the enumeration likewise purport to be a complete statement of the causes of removal from office. To subscribe to the view that appointments or election of impeachable officers are outside judicial review is to cleanse their appointments or election of any possible defect pertaining to the constitutionally prescribed qualifications which cannot otherwise be raised if in an impeachment proceeding. Courts should be able to inquire into the validity of appointments, even of impeachable officers, and to hold otherwise is to allow an absurd situation where the appointment of an impeachable officer cannot be questioned even when, for instance, he or she has been determined to be of a foreign nationality or in offices where bar membership is a qualification, then he or she fraudulently represented to be a member of the bar. So if you can recall, the basis why they used quo warranto was they're questioning the qualifications of the Chief Justice at the time that she applied for for a position in the court. So they check the previous application as an associate justice, and later on while the one that appointed her as chief justice. Okay? So yun yung naging basihan kaya siya inalis. Doon nag-concentrate kung kasi if I recall the issue on impeachment, it's more on acts actually, if I can recall it correctly. That involves some acts which the Supreme Court was involved. For example, yung sa Marawi siege, I think that was involved. However, they did that for, of course, for some reason. There is a large chance that it would not that any impeachment proceedings will not materialize. However, as I said, the Solicitor General found a way to look for another ground, which is to question her qualifications while she was applying for Chief Justice. Okay? Now, of course, unless such an officer commits any of the grounds for impeachment is actually impeached, he can continue discharging the functions of his office even when he is clearly disqualified from holding it. Such will result in permitting unqualified and ineligible public officials to continue occupying key positions, exercising sensitive foreign functions until they are successfully removed from office through impeachment. This could not have been the intent of the framers of the Constitution. Okay? So that's your ruling on Republic versus Sereno. Essentially, just to a bit of a background, the Supreme Court relied heavily on the commentaries of a US political commentator. If I can recall, it's the opinions of Professor Chartel, which they heavily relied on when in explaining the coexistence of co-warranto and impeachment as possible remedies for removal of office. Now, of course, this is the ruling as it stands, okay? And note that this ruling has been affirmed in subsequently in this case of, well, not necessarily a case of, this is an administrative matter involving the widow of Chief Justice Renato Corona. If you can recall, Chief Justice Renato Corona was removed. He was impeached and later on was removed in by way of the impeachment trial. Okay? Um, Eventually, Chief Justice Corona died, and of course, when a Chief Justice dies, diba? And I think you have seen this in previous cases involving pension. Of course, the issue would always be the pension. Now, there is this belief at the time that it would be difficult to get the pension of Chief Justice Corona that should benefit his wife because of supposedly of this issue on his being removed. He being removed by way of impeachment trial. Okay, so in determining the Supreme Court in determining that the widow of the late Chief Justice Corona is entitled to benefits, okay, yung kanyang pensyon binigay ng Supreme Court dun sa widow ni Chief Justice Corona. The Supreme Court held that, well, citing Republic versus Sereno, It is, of course, elaborated in that case that while both impeachment and quo warranto seek the ultimate removal of an incumbent government officer, the two differ as to the nature, jurisdiction, grounds, and applicable procedural rules and limitations. So again, to reiterate the Republic versus Sereno, impeachment is political, quo warranto is judicial. In impeachment, the Congress is the prosecutor, the trier, and the judge, whether quo warranto petitions are instituted either by the Solicitor General of the Republic of the Philippines or an individual claiming the public office in issue, both of which petitions are recognizable only by the Supreme Court. Impeachment proceedings seek to confirm and vindicate the breach of the trust reposed by the Filipino people upon the impeachable official. But quo warranto determines the legal right, title, eligibility, or qualifications of the incumbent to the contested public office. In addition, of course, the 1987 Constitution, as supplemented by the Internal Rules of Procedure of Congress, directs the course of impeachment proceedings, while quo warranto cases, on the other hand, are dictated by the rules of court. And finally, of course, what's the end result? The end result of an impeachment proceeding is the removal of the public officer and his or her perpetual political disqualification from holding public office. On the other hand, when a quo warranto petition is granted, ouster from office is likewise meted, but the court can likewise impose upon the public officer additional penalties such as reimbursement of costs pertaining to the rightful holder of the public office and such other further judgment determining the respective rights in and to the public office, position, or franchise of all the parties to the action as justice requires. Okay. Now, we now go now to, of course, the latest case, which is Duterte versus House of Representatives. Okay. So what are the facts of the case? Okay. Of course, this is the first impeachment complaint filed against Vice President Sara Duterte. Okay. Of course, the one that we have now, of course, this was the result of an impeachment case after the lapse of the 1 year bar. Okay, so the proceedings that you see now, as we now discuss this lecture, that's the result of the filing of another impeachment complaint after the 1 year bar that was dictated here in this particular case. Okay, so what happened here? Bakit hindi nag-prosper itong particular impeachment case against kay VP Sara Duterte? So what are the facts? So of course background, of course there are moving interested persons who wanted Vice President Sara Duterte to be impeached, and I think we have seen that even as early in 2024 when he's being questioned with her confidential funds. So of course those confidential funds is still the topic of the present impeachment trial, okay, as we now speak, okay. But that's the premise. Of course they're questioning some acts of the vice president, etc., etc. So what happened was, for purposes of this particular incident, so there were three impeachment complaints that were filed by separate petitioners on December 2, December 4, and December 19 of 2024. So these three impeachment complaints was filed pursuant to Article 11, Section 3, Paragraph 2. So what is that? Let's go back to that particular provision, okay? Let's go back to that particular provision, okay? So there is, of course, number 2, there's a verified complaint of impeachment that was filed. So the three complaints were filed in this manner. So for example, there is a citizen, he asked, he filed a verified complaint, then he asked the endorsement of one of the members of the House of Representatives. Now, what happened now is, you note now number 4, because in number 4, if the members of the House would file such is filed by at least 1/3 of all the members, okay, the same shall constitute now the articles of impeachment. So what happened now is, there were these three complaints. For some reason, I don't know what's the reason of Congress, they kind of shelved these three cases, because on February 5, 2025, they filed an they if you can recall the news here, of course they made a particular resolution. They asked for signatures of the congressmen, okay, and eventually they got about 200, or I think 200, 300 plus signatures pursuant to Article 11, Section 3, Paragraph 4. So using this fourth impeachment complaint, the House resolved that they're going to elevate the articles of impeachment. Okay? Then, so aside from that particular filing by the members of Congress, they also declared that the first three petitions were already archived. Okay? So they just used the fourth impeachment complaint as we see here. Okay? So after that, okay, a petitioner filed, of course, a petition for certiorari before the SC. Okay? Now while the petition is pending, okay, if you can recall what happened in this case, of course, after the impeachment of the vice president, uh, certain members, of course, of the House of Representatives would want to start the trial immediately, and they cited, of course, article articles article 11 section 3 paragraph 4, wherefore there is this they're insisting it using the term that it should proceed forthwith. Okay, it should proceed forthwith. Okay, so, and if you can recall, the Senate is a bit reluctant. The Senate leadership at that time is a bit reluctant to proceed. Okay, with the particular impeachment complaint, much to the the frustration of the House, as particularly the House prosecutors and their supporters. They cannot proceed with the case. Okay, now Now, what happened now is, if you can now recall, in July, the Supreme Court now released a ruling. Of course, if you can recall, a week or two prior to that, the Supreme Court kind of issued an order requesting, asking some similarly like interrogatory questions to the House and Senate on how we're going to proceed. Of course, the Congress is insisting on their quote unquote powers vested by them by virtue of the separation of powers. Implicitly they're saying they're not going to cooperate, diba? They're going to insist that it should be forthwith. Now, of course, the decision came out, okay, and of course, in an unanimous vote, okay, the Supreme Court agreed among themselves that the fourth impeachment complaint is unconstitutional. All right. Okay, so how did the Supreme Court rule? Okay, number one, the first issue that was discussed was on justiciability. So the question that was posited was, is impeachment a political question? I think you know naman the implications of political question. Courts cannot practically touch or cannot interfere with such a decision, especially if it involves the wisdom of one branch of the government. Okay, so that's the classic definition of political question. However, the Supreme Court ruled that, of course, if you can now recall judicial review under our current constitution, diba, sa Article 8, Section 1, of course, there is the Supreme Court has the power to settle actual controversies that are legally demandable and enforceable. And also, it may also not preclude the Supreme Court to decide whether or determine whether or not there is grave abuse of discretion amounting to lack or in excess of jurisdiction. Okay. In this case, they determined that what's the factual milieu in this particular case is susceptible to judicial review, because it appears that there are violations of the Constitution in the acts of Congress when they approve the fourth impeachment complaint. Okay. Now, the next discussion would be, of course, on jurisdiction. So there's now a jurisdiction on, of course, a 1-year bar. What's the reckoning period? So essentially, this is the decision in Francisco versus House of Representatives was revisited. Okay, so in order to determine these particular matters, okay, the Supreme Court defined session days in relation to the Constitution. So they determined that the term session they shall be used, and that should be the reckoning counting time in order to determine what's the appropriate time to act upon the complaint. So 10 session days, this is reckoned from the time an impeachment complaint is dismissed or no longer viable. Okay? Of course, you have to relate this to this concept of adjournment. Kasi remember, nung inapprove yung fourth impeachment complaint, nag-adjourn na yung Congress, di ba? Naalala niyo yun, nung February 5 na yun, that's the last day of Congress. Hinabol nila, pinoto-finish nila yung impeachment complaint ni BP Sara dyan nung time na yan. Now, ang nangyari kasi, di ba nga, ang nangyari nung inapprove nila yung fourth impeachment complaint, in-archive nila yung tatlo na final in a different set of circumstances and different grounds, which is yung paragraph 2 ng Article 3 ng Section 11, ng Article 11, okay? Okay, so since the impeachment complaints were archived, it was not acted upon. Thus, the fourth impeachment complaint is a prohibited complaint under the 1-year bar rule. Okay? Siguro iniisip ng Congress, kung i-archive nila yung tatlo, edi isa lang yung complaint, diba? But hindi yun ang basa ng Supreme Court. Para sa Supreme Court, you should count the first 3 complaints. Since there was an initial complaint, dapat doon sila nagbilang. Okay? Of course, personal view here. I think I'm going to discuss. There is a later slide on this. But what I was thinking is, hindi ko alam bakit hindi nila kinonsolidate yung kaso. Kasi kung kinonsolidate nila yung 4 na kaso, baka pumasok pa siya dun sa argument natin sa Gutierrez kahit papano. Na since consolidated siya, para sila may jurisdiction. But I don't know why did they quote unquote archive the first 3 cases. Of course, these are some things that may sabihin natin, well, it beats us, di ba, why they did that. But well, yun ang nangyari. Because of that, the consequences was that, well, the fourth impeachment complaint is deemed illegal and unconstitutional because it's not the original initiatory complaint. Okay? Then, of course, due process and guidelines. I think the Supreme Court, in this case, particularly enumerated, what are you going to do with the case, okay, with the impeachment, okay. Of course, the salient features of those guidelines, of course, would include that number 1, collegial bodies are not susceptible to impeachment. That's one proclamation in that guideline. Another one is that in order for the House Justice Committee to determine whether or not there is this there is to determine whether or not the complaint is sufficient in form and substance, there should be at least a semblance of there is a quote unquote due process path. When I say due process path, it is as if, because what happened before this was, of course, the House Committee on Justice will discuss. They're going to discuss the case, okay? They're going to discuss the impeachment complaint filed, okay? They usually do it based on what they discuss. Then they're going to, if they would determine that it's okay, they're going to vote for it. Then they're going to bring it to plenary, okay, for the 1/3 vote above, okay? But what I'm saying is, in those times, there is no need for, you don't need to call the impeachable officer, or not need to call the lawyer. They can determine it now. In that particular guideline in Duterte, the Supreme Court at least made measures that you should ensure that due process should be afforded to the impeachable officer. So kung kailangan padalan siya ng invitation or binigyan siya ng notice, that should be complied with. Kaya nga, di ba, kung naalala nyo, yung mga prosecutors at the time, they are quote-unquote complaining because they felt that, well, it's going to be difficult filing an impeachment complaint going forward. Although, of course, what happened now, which now we have now the impeachment trial, well, it would appear that they complied with it. And, well, they were able to elevate the articles of impeachment against the vice president, diba? So, but the point is, there is now a much stricter standard in order before the particular impeachment complaint would be finally be ripe, or it's finally be okay for proceeding for for the impeachment of any impeachable officer. Okay, all right, now other matters. Okay, of course, ayun, a discussion there would appear, of course, that suits against impeachable officers can be only done after the removal from office. Then, of course, remember after the decision in Duterte, of course, there is a lot of discussion on whether or not the Supreme Court has not exercised judicial restraint. Of course, that's more of an academic discussion, but of course, as it stands, of course, we have to respect the we have to respect the decision or the findings of the Supreme Court. Okay, then of course, there are some legal commentators as to they want to apply the operative fact doctrine. Then of course, what would be the remedies of the House of Representatives? Okay, or would there be impeachment after that motion for reconsideration? Okay, all right, then of course, political question. This is just my observation. Of course, it would now appear, of course, that there are only two political questions left. So, discipline of members of Congress and exercise of eminent domain. Because most of the provisions now, before it was considered as political question, or it's a separation of powers thing. If you can recall, investigations in state of legislation, when they cite Arnold versus Nazareno, it's absolute. But nowadays there are now limitations, di ba? Starting with earlier cases, of course, recently, of course, if you can recall Uyong and other cases, you need to comply with basic due process tenets. Okay, ganun din sa eminent domain. Ano pa ba, right now, ito na lang yung lumalabas na political questions these days. Okay? This is just my personal observation. So, it would appear that all other issues are now considered justiciable on the expanded concept of judicial review. And note that, okay, this would only be considered within the expanded concept. Remember, if there would be, again, grave abuse of discretion amounting to lack or in excess of jurisdiction. Okay? Then, definition of session days. Okay, so the court made judicial notice of the definition of session days in computing the 10-day period under Article 11, Section 3.2 as defined by the rules of the House of Representatives. Okay, so they cited and they made judicial notice of the procedures of the House of Representatives because, as I can recall, if you recall, Article 11.3.8, okay, Section 3.8, of course, it's the House has the power to promulgate rules when it comes to impeachment. Of course, insofar as impeachment trial is concerned, Senate can also make their own rules insofar as impeachment trial is concerned. Okay. Then, of course, it kind of modified Francisco versus House of Representatives as to the 1-year ban. Okay, so recognizing that there may be no referral to the House Justice Committee if the complaint was filed under Article 11, Section 3, Paragraph 4, it slightly modified the previous ruling in Francisco that now it is reckoned from the time an impeachment complaint is dismissed or no longer viable. Okay. Then, of course, effect of adjournment. Eventually, the concept of adjournment has been applied together with the discussion on unfinished business by not acting upon or archiving on the first three impeachment complaints. This was the reason or the crux used to determine that the fourth impeachment complaint was filed in violation of the 1-year bar rule. Then, of course, due process guidelines. Of course, as I said, these guidelines are self-explanatory, but in passing, the guidelines are there and importantly in the event that the House of Representatives will toy with the idea of filing impeachment cases against the justices because, well, the court will have something as basis in order to point out that if they try to impeach the justices, or actually hindi lang justices yan eh. Ang ginamit na term collegial bodies eh. So it does not also include the justices. It may include COMELEC, it may include COA, it may include the civil service commissioners, okay? So the court will have something as basis in order to point out that if they try to impeach the justices or other collegial bodies, the guidelines will trap them regardless, as any attempt would either be considered as grave abuse of discretion amounting to lack or in excess of jurisdiction, or to paraphrase Gutierrez versus Justice, an attempt on obscurantism. Okay? So, then liability of impeachment officer. So if you read carefully the case, it's kind of hidden in the middle discussion, the extent of liability. Of course, this may be considered as obiter later on in another case, but as it stands, it's here in this decision. Okay, so if you read the decision, there is a discussion to the effect that impeachable officers are not immune from liability for wrongdoing during their tenure. They're immune only for being subjected to suit or being removed by means other than impeachment. That it is for these reasons that impeachment is the only way to remove an impeachable public official or to hold them to account while they serve their tenure. So, assuming that this is not obiter, this would mean that one cannot file any case against the impeachable officer unless removed by impeachment, for which cases may only be filed after such removal from office. To be blunt, it would appear that the Vice President and other impeachable officials under the Constitution cannot be sued for any case while in office and until removed by way of impeachment, thus creating a virtual quote-unquote immunity from suit for impeachable officers. And that's it. So that's it. Okay, so that's our discussion on that's our discussion on public on impeachment. Okay.